And to take a seat and get really, really comfortable because
we're in a fireside chat.
You guys might not have known this, but Mr. Brad Oscar is in our Zoom room now, and he's been watching you dance. Say hi, Brad.
Surprise!
There he is.
Hi, everybody. You guys, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. I so enjoyed that. Really made my day already. Thank you.
Oh, good.
So some of you may know and some of you may not know, but Brad Oscar has been on Broadway since he was 2. He's been in Spamalot and Addams Family and Big Fish and Something Rotten, The Producers, Aspects of Love. What else, Brad? And right now he is in Mrs. Doubtfire. Well, right now he's in his living room, but right. When this all ends, he'll go back to being in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Brad Oscar is one of the funniest musical theater performers, so you are very lucky.
Awesome. I am very lucky, believe me. No, I love, as Meg knows, because I've known Meg a while now, of course. But watching you guys, I've loved this ever since I was a kid, musical theater. Just hearing that fabulous dance break, those trumpets, the sound of what that particular number that you're working on is, still just thrills me so much. And to see you guys at your age embracing it, because obviously there's something about it that you love too. And more importantly, something I wished maybe I'd known a little more is the facility, what you're actually doing, the skills that you're learning, picking up what David is throwing at you, what Meg is giving you, because that's a fabulous skill to start to get your body in sync with your mind and everything. Because really, if you do love this, the more everything's on the same page, and it'll be much easier for you. I always wished, that I would do better at my movement calls. I can get something after a week or two, but in an audition situation, the idea that you can see something, pick it up, and then, spit it back out in some way. And the more you know your body and the more you do exactly what you're doing. And it was just thrilling to me to watch you guys process that. And especially because right now you're in a space where there is no wrong or right. The beauty is that you can explore it and make mistakes and you'll nail it or find out what you're specific. I need to work on this or this. I know I do this well. And, so anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking already, but really,
it's great. It's great. You know what? I want you to elaborate on something though, because we've had 2 conservatory sessions that are 6 weeks long, and it's all different levels of everything, of vocalists, of actors, of dancers. And so will you talk a little bit about the process of like what you go through as a singer, dancer, actor in a dance call, if for people that don't feel as like secure in their dancing that they could be in a show like Fosse or Cats or, one of those, but that how important it is as to be, right, to be well-rounded like that?
Yes. The fact remains, we all do what we do, right? And we know some people they're just dancers. I mean, like athletes, like whatever. I mean, they have the facility, they've worked, whatever it is that makes them great dancers. The rest of us, we move well, we try to play catch up or whatever. So again, I guess the more comfortable you can feel in those audition situations, obviously, the better you're going to be able to do. They're not going to hire, relatively speaking, you don't know what they want or what they're going to hire, but they're not going to hire you because you're the best dancer if you're not the best dancer. So that's okay. You don't need to be the best dancer then. Be the best singer, be the best actor, be whatever. Be the best you, really, is the answer. And I found out along the way that the best me, I'll never forget the audition when I left and I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put myself in that situation again, where the dance call was obviously well beyond my ability. And I just felt like, you know what? It's okay for me to say, if that's what you're looking for, that's not what I can do. You know what I mean? But always, of course, strive and try and challenge yourself. And again, you're at an age right now where you can do that. And no one's making big life or death decisions here. You're just, you're exploring and finding what you love. And you may find that dance is indeed what you absolutely love. And then start singing and of course acting, because if you want to be in musical theater, ideally you want to do all 3. But also remember just to embrace, again, who you are and what you bring to the table. We all want to do everything. We all want to be the best because we want to be transformable. We want to play characters that are different from us or whatever. But at the end of the day, the truth is there's only one you. And so what you bring to the table as that character, at that audition, is unlike what anybody else will bring. So when you learn to embrace that, And again, practice and skill and all that stuff, and see and go to the theater as much as you can, any kind of theater, because I learned so much just going and seeing shows. I grew up in DC, so I was lucky because I saw shows try out before they would go to New York. So I would get to see them in DC, and I was, but a lot of that was part of my education, I feel like, and going to community theater, and of course, doing exactly what you're doing right now. So, yeah, but the more prepared you are, of course, the better things will go, the better you'll feel about how things go. But yeah, but also, you can't beat yourself up. You're your own worst enemy, I think, always, right, Meg? I mean, because, you're always looking around and saying, oh, wow, he's much more handsome, or, oh boy, wow, he's got a much better voice than I do. Or, I've worked with actors, and it's a great thing to be challenged, but I've worked with actors where I'm like, oh my God, I feel so untalented next to this person, because I just think they're fantastic, and their ideas and their creativity or whatever. So as much as I feel like, oh wow, I feel so inadequate, I'm like, whoa, we're all here, we're at the same table. So let's just learn from that, embrace that, and try to keep learning every day.
So who would like to ask the first question? Hannah, you're on, baby.
What's your favorite musical that you've been in so far?
Well, Hannah, that's a tough question, because I would have had an answer like 5 years ago, because almost 20 years ago, I was in the show The Producers, the Mel Brooks musical with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick. And that was a very exciting piece to be a part of. I got my first Tony nomination, and that was really thrilling, of course. My God, I'd always dreamt of that. So that was certainly a huge, part of my life and my career. Excuse me. But then 5 years ago, almost exactly to this day, I opened in Something Rotten on Broadway and got to play Nostradamus and do this crazy, wonderful number that celebrates musical theater, if you guys know the song A Musical. And that was also an extraordinary experience, a little more than The Producers, because no one thought that Something Rotten was necessarily going to be a hit. No one knew what the show was about. The Producers came into New York, and people knew the film that predated it, and Mel Brooks and Nathan and Matthew, and but Something Rotten sort of surprised people, and there was something so joyous in that. So it's a tie. It's a tie.
Sarah Fowler.
Sarah.
I wanted to ask, what's your favorite thing to do in quarantine?
What's my favorite thing to do in quarantine? Well, I guess I am indeed catching up on a lot of, there's so much to stream. There are so many TV shows on so many platforms these days. So the good thing is I've been able to catch up on some of that stuff. And then the best thing, I'm trying to look for the good things, because we all know this has been a very difficult time. I think in the big picture, the best thing has been reconnecting with some friends and family, maybe, that I haven't spoken to in a while. I made my mother's chicken soup, and I made my mother's brisket recipe here. We're actually up at a house with our goddaughter and her folks. But anyway, I cooked 2 meals that I've been having since I was a child and love, that I've never made myself before. But because here we are, and what do we have to do? And we had the groceries and blah, blah, blah. Exactly.
Okay. What about Macy?
There you go.
I was wondering, who do you look up to?
I look up to... that's an interesting question, I guess. Like right now, for instance, as far as like having real admiration and being very grateful to have had the opportunity, Mrs. Doubtfire is being directed by Jerry Zaks, who is, I think, a 4-time Tony Award-winning director and has directed a lot of things over the years, and is a very...
Google him. Google him, guys.
He's a great guy, and he really, when it comes to musical comedy, he's a master. And so I have learned so much working on this piece with him, and I never had worked with him before. So I'm very grateful that I'm having that opportunity now, because again, it's going to inform my work from now on, my sense of comedy, what I've learned from Jerry Zaks. And so I'm very grateful, and I really look up to him also because he's a really good guy. And you find plenty of good people in this business, as well as maybe not so great. But the people who really have a heart and love what they're doing and respect everyone who is a part of that process, everyone. Stage managers, wardrobe, the crew, the musicians, everybody's coming together to do this one thing. And when you have a leader, a director like Jerry, who has the utmost respect for each one of those people, then you all want to do your best work. You all want to, because you're a part of it in that way. That's so important. It's easy for the actors to feel a part of it because we get all the glory. We get to go out there and then we get the applause and whatever. but so many people, as you know, come together to do it. And so I look up to people who understand that and respect that. And I have really little tolerance for actors who don't, especially, actors we know, Meg, who think their dressers are there to serve them in a way, or to be some sort of, slave, if you will. No, my God, these people are helping you to get, and keep your clothes clean and do all the things they do. So anyway, I'm saying, you need to respect everybody working on a project, and it makes everything that much better.
And
So,
Brad, you're playing Frank in Mrs. Doubtfire, correct?
I am. I'm playing his brother. Yes, Harvey Fierstein plays the role in the film, and yes, and he's a makeup and hair guy, and he helps the character of Daniel transform into Mrs. Doubtfire in order to just be with his kids.
You guys haven't seen Mrs. Doubtfire, the movie with Robin Williams, the brilliant Robin Williams. That should be a homework assignment for you, because it's fantastic.
It's a very good movie, very sweet movie.
And I want to add one thing, because one of the staff members at City Springs brought it up to me, and it didn't happen for me when I Googled your name, but since David was talking about Google, did you know that I guess Google knows who everybody knows, so it didn't happen when I did it. But when one of the staff members did it, because they don't know you personally, I guess when they Googled Brad Oscar, instead it comes up about Brad Pitt's Oscar.
Oscar, yes. Yes. All spring long, exactly.
So now you have to put in Brad Oscar Broadway.
Exactly. But no, I was getting the Google alert because Brad and Oscar appear in the same sentence. Exactly.
Yeah, super funny.
Yeah, poor me.
Yeah. Okay, who else has a question? Callie.
Hi. I think Big Fish is one of my favorite shows ever. So do you have any, like a favorite moment from that show or a favorite part?
From Big Fish? Yeah, Big Fish was a beautiful show and sort of heartbreaking because, you invest, obviously, you get emotionally involved in whatever show you're doing. And it was such a beautiful story and such an emotional show. I think what I will, a moment that always resonated and I'll never forget is the finale of the show, when all of these characters, all these people in Edward Bloom's life gather at the river because he has passed away, he has died, and we're all meeting him at the river, and of course it's all very metaphorical and fairy tale like, if you will. And Andrew Lippa wrote one of the most beautiful scores easily of the last decade. So underrated, I think, but thank God people do Big Fish, and Big Fish, which that always makes my heart swell when people know it or have done it or whatever. So it lives on. But yeah, I'll never forget standing on stage every night. I'll even talking about it, I'll get choked up and hearing Norbert Leo Butz start that final song, which I think is called How It Ends. And it's a beautiful song. And we all had to stand there and smile and whatever. And we're all like so emotional inside because it's such a beautiful moment. And Susan Stroman, our great director and choreographer, said to us one day, it's still late in rehearsal though, but when we were getting to that point and everybody was just sobbing during this number, and that can't happen. You can't get you have to disconnect. And Stro said, she said something about the light and the dark and what this moment's all about. And she said to us as an ensemble, be the sun, be the sunlight. And just that visual of having to be the sun and project a brightness like that helped me, and I think a lot of us, to be able to get, because it's not often that I get emotional live on stage. I mean, they call it acting for a reason. You can't go out every night and have a nervous breakdown, depending, but, even shows that I've done where I want to get, I played Tevye and Fiddler on the Roof, very emotional show. And some nights I was more emotional than other nights. What are you going to do? Some nights I would get more choked up than other nights. I felt like I was doing the same thing, but it's live theater, but it was one of the few times that I've ever not been able to, contain myself nightly, emotionally. Yeah. Thanks for asking about it.
Riley,
where are you?
Okay, so have there ever been any moments where you've had to almost improv like a big scene, or there's been any moments where there's been like a big blank on stage?
Oh, well, that's always the worst, is when, you do something 8 times a week. I mean, again, if you're lucky enough and you're you're professional as far as that goes. So you're doing shows 8 times a week, because needless to say, until I was working in New York or doing stuff regionally, I was doing 3 shows a weekend, 4 shows a weekend, maybe for a couple weekends, whatever, which is what we do. So, you're sort of on your game because every show is but when you start doing a show 8 times a week and it becomes muscle memory and you're really not thinking about your lines while you're saying them, you've lived it, it's part of your DNA. But then there comes a dangerous time when, I'm so comfortable with then all of a sudden I'm like, what's the line? What's the next line? And the minute I try to think about it, there's no way. There's no way. So then you just try to think about, what's the moment? What can I say that sounds like what I'm supposed to say? Because I have no idea what the word is or what I'm supposed to say, So it's a very tricky thing that way to sort of navigate. So those are moments that I absolutely dread on stage, and then there are those moments when you just have to technically, things happen and you have to keep going because the stage manager hasn't stopped the show. And you're thinking, why aren't they stopping the show? Because the set is not moving off stage or the set's not coming on stage, but you're out there and you just try to keep going. And and people are off stage sometimes saying, keep going, or, whatever. But it's, again, it's live theater. So anything can and will happen.
Hollis.
So if you had to pick another show to be in, what would it be?
Well, there's one, people sometimes ask you what role do you really want to do? What's your dream role or whatever. And up until I did a production of Sweeney Todd, the musical, off Broadway a couple years ago, which was set in a pie shop, which was really cool. I would have said Sweeney, but I got to play the Beetle and I did Sweeney. And I saw how hard it was to actually sing Sweeney 8 times a week. And I was like, I don't need to do Sweeney. I did a great production. I'm satisfied. So now the only role that I would love to play really is the role of Albin in La Cage aux Folles, which is the Jerry Herman musical from a time called 1984. But anyway, it's a very, very fun, a role that I've always wanted to do. And so that would sort of be, as far as that goes.
Brad, you know what? I want you to talk about something that I think is important, because you've had such an incredible experience with it, and you and Sutton Foster and a couple of other people, when you start off as a swing in a production and you're an understudy and then you get called to go on.
Yes.
And the importance of being a swing and the stamina that takes and being prepared. And could you just tell us a little bit about what happened to you and how important that role of a swing is? Because some people, when they get cast as a swing, they're like, oh, I'm swing.
It is the hardest job. I mean, think about it. As a swing, I guess you know what a swing is. You are responsible for covering God knows how many people in the ensemble. So all of these different tracks, all of these, people's track, what they're doing, all of these different numbers in your head, depending on how. So yeah, a swing is easily one of the most difficult jobs, and a good swing is invaluable. I've worked with many. My first Broadway show, I was cast as a swing on Aspects of Love, which is an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. Now, this is not a dance show. This is not a show where I was required to have to deal with what most swings will deal with in a typical musical per se. But it was tricky. There was a lot going on in my head. And every time I would go on for a different track for the first time, I would, definitely make some mistakes, and people were very kind and then guiding you around or whatever. So then I did a couple shows where I was in the ensemble. And then the first couple weeks of rehearsals for the producers in New York with Susan Stroman and that whole gang, and I was an actual swing at that time, was mind-blowing, and I was terrified. And I would have been a horrible swing in that case had I ever been tested, because that was a very choreographic heavy show. And even the character actors, of which I was covering most of the character actors, not the dancers, needless to say. But even the character actors were required to do things that, were very dancey to me. So I was flipping out because I was like, how am I going to, learn half this, much less than learn, 8 versions of it, while at the same time covering the lead role, covering the role of Franz, which is the one I took over for. So, so it was crazy. but
And
there is
then
no,
eventually took over for Max.
and then eventually took over for Max. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it was a crazy, crazy story. But unquestionably, as you know, just trying to learn any combination. So now think of learning the combination you're learning right now, and then learning it 5 or 6 more times based on spatial and who's your partner and where are you on stage. So, you could have a totally different, it might be the same, or it might be, so again, think of keeping 6 different tracks in your head. And at any given moment, getting a phone call at 5 o'clock, you're on tonight for this track, you're on for that, whatever. It's crazy.
Or you get a call over the intercom that says one of the
Oh.
characters is hurt, and you go in. That was my first time.
Really?
Yep.
In what?
The show had started.
I was eating yogurt, and it was like, David Rossetti, please get into costume for Ryan Vandenboom. Get into costume for Ryan Vandenboom. Never gone on, never rehearsed that track. Here we go.
God.
No.
Oh my God. For Ryan. That's hilarious. Wow.
It's an important lesson, you guys, like even when you're in the rehearsal process for a show, that you really, even if you're cast in the show and you're on stage, you're going to be on stage every night. It's just sort of important to, when you're not working, to really look at what everybody else is doing, where everybody else is on stage, because something is bound to happen. And sometimes I've been in shows before where people were sick, people were out of the show, swings were sick, swings were out of the show, and on stage people were having to cover and pick up lines and pick up lyrics for people that just weren't on stage. So it's just good to know your show from the beginning to end, all of it, all the ins and outs.
Yeah.
So if you, was it Riley that asked the question about a blank moment? If somebody has a blank moment on stage,
Exactly.
sometimes it's an ensemble member would be like, yeah, I know, that was terrible, wasn't it? And then it keeps going. Like they cover for you. Yeah. So any more questions? Miss Nev Jude. Hey, Brad, this is Claycy Miller's daughter who was in East with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mommy, Brad's on.
Mom.
Oh, Lord, I got my quarantine look going on.
How are you?
Of the Stay Home Club. Here we are.
Oh,
Good to see you.
you as well. Oh, you as well.
If you're like more of a singer, hold on, buddy. If you're like more of a singer and you go into a dance call and it's like really hard and you're like super overwhelmed, what do you do?
Well, it's like what I was talking about earlier, I guess. I guess you either make the decision that, you're going to just go for it, because you might just do better than you think. Maybe you might just be too judgmental to whatever. And if you think you understand the basics or whatever, but that's got to be every person's decision. As I said, at some point I was like, no, I can't do that. So, I'm going to bow out. But I certainly think, look, the ideally you go for it, because who knows, right? And if they're looking for something that you can't do, you can't do it. So big deal. You gave it a try, better to try, I guess, but yeah, it's a tricky situation. But again, try not to necessarily judge yourself or, think the answer before you've maybe given it a whirl or whatever, because really, what do you have to lose? Look, we all risk looking foolish. We get up on that's part of what we do. That's part of why you put yourself out there in a way. That's part of the risk. It's part of the excitement. You want it to go well, you want it to, but it's live. And so anything can happen. And that's the same thing as in an audition. So, so what? So you look foolish. I'd rather, you get more props for trying than for not, I think. And also, I think it's just a good learning experience too. At least you challenge yourself. And maybe you'll find like, oh, I did better than I thought I could. Or, oh, wow, if I had worked on this, maybe if I could facilitate, maybe I'd do better, or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to loop back with what Brad had said at the beginning, as long as you're going in there and you're being 100% you,
exactly.
Don't be too hard on yourself, you guys, because you never know really what's going on behind that table. And you might have walked into an audition where you thought, oh my gosh, I totally screwed up that dance audition. But then it gave them an idea
exactly
to see you for something else in the piece. So they might give you, oh, you know what, you should read these sides, or, just see you in a completely different way. So it's never, all of it's good. All of it's good because they have no idea what they're thinking about behind the table. Who else? Anybody? Oh, Pauline.
Oh.
I just have a question. What college did you go to?
I went to Boston University at their College of Fine Arts. Yes.
Okay.
So I did, a 4-year. I got a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts. Yes. It was fine.
It was fine. Are you still paying for it?
No.
No. Oh, good. Kayla.
What was your most embarrassing moment on stage?
Yeah, somebody has this question.
Gosh, I hate questions like this because because I swear, and here's the reason why I think I don't like questions like this is because I just try to put it out of my mind. Because if I keep thinking about it, right, you feel so mortified. I feel so mortified sometimes. I'm trying to think like my mom. I always hate when I have to do something physical that doesn't go that I should be able to master, and you think you've got it. For instance, every night at the end of The Producers, when I took over the lead role, Leo and Max, the characters, have a final little song and dance with their hats and their canes. And there's a cane flip. Now, a cane flip is a cane flip. You just, boom, you flip it, whatever. And you get it in your body and you know what you're doing and, just like tossing a ball, whatever it might be. That cane flip became the bane of my existence because it stressed me out so much. Now, mind you, I got that cane flip on most nights, but there was one night that I psyched myself out so bad that I went into the cane flip and the cane literally flew over the orchestra pit and into the front row. And I had no cane for the rest of the number. And I thought I had killed someone. And everybody was fine. The woman in the front row gave it to an usher at the end of the show. But that was that's something I remember is just being mortifying because you're like, wow, I just literally tried to spear an audience member unintentionally.
And she paid $800 for that.
Exactly. It wasn't cheap.
No.
Yeah. So there you go. Thank you. But now I know my answer next time someone asks me that.
Yeah, that's good. All right, I'm going to take one more question. I'm going to take Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hi. So how did you get your first role on Broadway? Were you did you have an agent, or open call?
Open call. Yes. I had done some equity work at a regional theater. So I had my equity card as far as being able to then go to these open auditions, the open equity calls, chorus calls, and principal calls they have. So, I went to the chorus call for Aspects of Love, this Andrew Lloyd Webber, because I saw that they were looking for, character men, not dancers, but, character men of a certain age or whatever. And so I went, and then I got called back. I got called back because, you go and initially you only sing 16 bars or 32 bars or whatever it was. And then I went back and they wanted a monologue, which is it's surprising. We work on monologues as part of our training, which is great because it's great practice. It's great exercise. It's something you can sort of, work on yourself in that way. But very rarely in the real world anymore do you do a monologue for an audition for a piece. Usually you're going to read from the script or do whatever. But anyway, they wanted a monologue, and I had this crazy, very funny monologue that from a play that I had just done a reading of. It wasn't even published. And I really feel like it's that monologue that got me the job because it was just funny enough, and they seemed to love it. And so, that's how I got my first job, but literally from an open call.
Cool. Thank you.
It can happen.
It can happen. It can happen to you. So Brad, we have been wrapping up these interviews with just a couple of quarantine questions because it's such a unique time for us. So just the first thing that comes to the top of your head. It can be one word, it can be a sentence, it doesn't matter. We're just a fun way to end our little Q&A session with you. And we're so glad that you were with us and that you shared your joy and your energy and your expertise and your love and your passion for what you've done for so many years. And you're a blessing to the theater world and to us. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you guys. Really, this has been, I've loved this. It's made my day. Thank you so much.
Yay, we made Brad Oscar's day, you guys.
You did. My best to all of you. All right, lay it on me, Meg.
Tell us your favorite food during quarantine.
My mother's brisket that I made last night was
Okay.
my favorite food. Yeah, and we've been cooking really well, so we've been eating pretty well.
Yeah, okay. Your favorite game.
Clue.
Fantastic. Your favorite show.
I'm not going to say Tiger King because that's too easy, but wow, that was twisted. My favorite show, Golden Girls, unquestionably, The Golden Girls, because I can watch it on Hulu, just one episode after the next. That's where I learned some comedy, kids, The Golden Girls.
Okay, and what have you learned is your least favorite chore that you're having to do yourself now all the time? Mine is the dishwasher. I would pay somebody to come empty my dishwasher because it's all the time.
I guess we're sort of in a little bit of a commune here. And I say that only because there are 5 adults and then my goddaughter's here. So we all sort of chip in, whoever cooks dinner, then someone else will do the dishes. So I've gotten off pretty
good
as far as that goes. Yeah. I'd say the biggest issue is am I going to shower today?
That's a chore. That's a big chore.
Exactly.
What is something about yourself that you've learned through this quarantine?
That I used to say I'm not defined by what I do as a performer, but I have realized having it taken away from me right now at this moment, again, in the process with the show, I have realized that it is such a part of what feeds me, what makes me tick, and what makes me me in the world, if you will. It sounds a little whatever. I miss that very much, and I've learned a little more as to how important it really is to me, that it's not just a job, because at a certain point in your life I've been so blessed, but sometimes you go out of town or you do this, you do that, and you're like, oh, do I want to keep compromising in the way, we all compromise. But anyway, I have learned that, yeah, it truly is part of what makes me tick, and in a great way, in a way that I cherish.
Yeah. What do you miss most?
I guess I miss that. I miss communicating. I mean, I literally miss just my friends and hugging my friends, right? And just going to your favorite restaurant. I mean, I miss life. And I know that's a big blanket statement. We all do in that way. Yeah. But I miss the little things. And I hope when we get back to life, we will have a new appreciation for why we need to be with each other, why we need to go to the theater and tell stories together and share that, and how special that is. And now that it's been taken away from us, I hope that we'll have a renewed appreciation for, us together and how we affect each other and how important and how much we need each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the first thing you're going to do when the floodgates open?
Oh, yeah, I guess try to have dinner with friends, get a group together, go to a favorite restaurant, just something ordinary, something like that, go to just be outside and not worry, go to the grocery store and
walk
not
down all the aisles.
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellent. David, do you have anything to add?
No. I really hope the world gets to see Mrs. Doubtfire sooner than later. So
I hope so too. But we'll be there.
Very exciting, and all of a sudden it's just taken out from you. But it's going to come back.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's going to be more important than ever because the show really is about family and all different kinds of family and what that word actually means to us today, and it resonates, I think, so beautifully. So I think it's a show, that we're going to need when we all come back together. So I hope to see you guys there. And if any of you guys come see the show, you better wait at the stage door and say hi. Got it?
Deal.
All right. Good.
We'll see you in New York City, Mr. Oscar.
All right, Ms. Gillantine. I love you.
Love you.
Bye, David.
Thanks so much.
Bye, you guys.
See you.
Thanks for being here. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Bye.
day.
Bye bye.